Hang on. Hello, Ben Chung. My guest today is Dr. Ben Chung, Orleans dentist and farmer. You may have met him at the farmer's market if you're local. Today, we are going to discuss the connection between good health habits, stress, attitude, healthy teeth and gums, and also talk about COVID and Dr. Chung's experience with it and all of his ingenuity around it. So welcome. Thank you so much, Dr. Chung, for joining us today.
Oh, glad to be here this afternoon. I know it's hard to hear me, but this is through the mask and thing.
well, we can have you take it off. Would you like to first talk about the features of your suit and how you came to create it?
Well, it has all these features because when we do this, we have to protect ourselves. So wearing a mask is not going to do in the clinic because we're expecting some of our patients might be silent, sort of asymptomatic carriers. So that's the reason why I have this. Let me turn this off a little bit. I do this all day. So here it is. But it's very protective, as you can tell. It's like a space suit. Let me put it aside. Okay, I'm right here. Yeah. Oh, okay, hang on a second. For some reason, we lost the voice.
Oh, so sorry. So, can you talk about the handcrafted suit and your response to it? Because I know we talked about, and for those who are going to be listening on the radio, and they can come and see the video on Facebook at Pandora Peoples, or I'll tag you so they can look up Ben Chung and and see it for themselves. But I would love for you to talk about how your intuition really carried you in your response, because you really decked out your office and you had went to the police and the fire station, and you wound up doing all this marvelous public service, sending masks and so forth. So can you talk about sort of your initial feeling?
Well, first of all, when I saw what happened in China, and we thought it's far away, it has nothing to do with us, except, you see, I came from Taiwan, and my brother, 17 years ago, told me about this special mask called N95 that would fight against some kind of respiratory virus called SARS. And that was kind of a far-fetched, but he influenced me enough that I had a box of N95 in my clinic, and I had them for 17 years. Okay, we never thought I was going to use it, and turns out that over the years I tested, I wore, so that's how I got into N95s, because most of the dentists are not trained that way. This is a surgical mask that I made, I sew. You see, I'll talk about it later. But the point is, we only wear surgical masks. And that's what we use, because we're dentists. We're supposed to prevent splatter, splashing, and that's all our trouble. But when I heard about Chinese having trouble, and it didn't seem that friendly, then I look at their nurses, how they work, then I realized that this is something a lot more serious than just having a cold. So I started getting a little nervous, and around this time of January and February, I got a really bad vibe. Something was going on. My daughter was going to Taiwan to study Chinese for a semester, so I had to prepare her. So preparing her meant I bought some N95 masks from local Sherwin-Williams, and there's a little nice lady that works in it. I remember I was talking to her about saying, you might want to get some, just in case. I'm going to buy some. I'm not going to take the whole thing. I'll just take what she needs. You got lots of it here. Just why don't you get some yourself, And luckily, when she went to Taiwan, she left a box. And then I had a really bad vibe around February, especially my son, Christian, who was a high school senior from Nauset. He went to Italy. And then we heard about Italians having trouble in Lombardy and Milan. My son was in Rome. So I heard that when they came back, nothing was done. And I was really nervous. He came in on the 19th of February, and school didn't call us till 2 weeks later. So I got a really bad vibe that something could have happened, so I started quarantining my son. And then I heard on the 5th of March, they cleaned the school, they shut down the school in Plymouth. Then I thought, Oh my goodness, we're getting close. By then, I was running out of N95 masks. I mean, a box of N95, it's not that much. I gave them away. So I bought some on the black market, eBay. And at some point, I had 300 N95 masks, okay? Nobody had that many in town. And so before the COVID hits, I was talking to patients regularly about masks. And I think 2 weeks before COVID hits, I was dressing up with, I'll send you a little picture of myself. I was dressing up with face shields, goggles, mask, N95, and having a protective part, the PPEs and stuff like that. People thought I was nuts. That was bare minimum. So I went to the police. They thought the acting chief thought I was trying to sell him masks. Oh no, I was trying to give him masks. I went to the school, the middle school, 3 times. I must have really antagonized that nurse. I know that I'm not that, I mean, I sound desperate, and my wife said it was my tone and my attitude. But I thought, like, how can you treat patients without anything, no mask on? She was just in there. A bunch of kids are sick, and she had a box of 50 masks, and she was parroting the words of CDC and the government, saying, "Don't wear masks. It's not useful. You don't hoard them. It's not effective." I was going on my mind. There are like 400 kids in school, in the middle school. And if they ask, I had 1,000 masks. I would give them some, None of them were interested. Yeah. I went to the postal office, gave them N95. I made masks. I gave them, they wouldn't use it. They were not allowed to use it. The government wouldn't let them use it. I gave them to pharmacies. Some of them threw them out. N95 masks. Some of them, come and get it. I had to take 5 masks back, 5 N95s. And all in all, the only persons that really listened to me were the funeral home people, Nickersons. And I went down there and I talked to one of the patients of mine that works there and said, "You guys know what to do?" And they didn't know what to do. So I told her what I thought. You need goggles, you need masks, N95, and you need to have, one of those protective suits. And I couldn't give you that many. I only have limited number of N95 masks. I gave, like they have 3 teams, and I can only give you one for two person for a team, for yourself and your daughter, because I had limited number of N95 masks at the time. Yeah. So I mean, then of course I talked to Dr. Shire up the road here, and then Dr. Montoya. These are my dental buddies, and then Dr. Malloy, Dr. Wygonski, Dr. Fitzgerald. Yeah. So I mean, I had a bad body. Can you hear me okay? I mean,
so you had made masks with the whole visor, or I don't know how to.
Oh, okay. So I was
hospital, and they wouldn't take them, right? So can you talk about where they went?
What happened was I contacted the school nurse. I mean, I contacted middle school. I have 2 daughters studying in that school. And I knew something was coming. I asked them whether they have any, what I call contingency plan, should this have happened, They had no plan. They didn't know what to do. They were parroting the words of CDC, which told them at the time, don't wear masks. They don't work. And healthy people don't need it. Don't hoard masks. That's all they were saying. And she had a box of 50. There were like 300-400 kids in the school right now. So I was talking to the police, acting chief. He thought I was trying to push some masks on them, trying to sell them some. I gave some to the dental professionals that they listened to me. I gave them face shields, or I think I gave some to Orleans Medical, face shields and things. They had N95s, but to protect ourselves, this is a respiratory virus. So N95, the regular sort of commercial grade one, is not enough because it's hydrophilic. It'll attach to a mask. That's why you wear a surgical over it. All we need is something called 3M 1860. That's the medical grade. Or Gerson 1730. You can Google that. Those are the ones we really need. Yeah, nobody had them at the time. Very few people had those. What I had was commercial grade. We have to protect with a medical mask over it. Yeah. So, but nobody listened. I think they thought I was nuts.
So can you talk about donating to the reservation?
Okay, so the idea was, no, I had a Facebook fundraising because I had an idea of making face shields for, because we were running out of face shields, and I thought I could make them out of vinyl and make out of foam. And then so I did a little fundraising, and people are more than generous. And so that helped me out with materials, and I bought a lot of materials to masks, and somebody donated the filters inside. And so with that kind of money, I was able to buy, and I have some N95 masks on hand as well, my own reserve. I mean, I spent over $1,000 on N95 masks this time. And the idea was, I found out that the Navajo Nation was severely affected. This was an NPR episode. And I felt that out of all people, they probably needed more than we do. So I contacted them. I sent some N95 masks, whatever I had. And the funniest part is, for some reason, that was the exact model that I was able to purchase later from another vendor. This is for the type for TB, the medical grade. So I sent him some more, and miraculously, somebody gave me some more back. This is really an interesting story. Yeah, so I probably should send some more to the Indians again. I felt that they were in Arizona, and they were in the reserve, and they're probably underserved. So we sent in goggles, face shields, protective wear, masks, and I think they're getting, their COVID situation is getting worse over there. I'll probably have to contact them again. Because for some reason, somebody sold me N95 masks, and I have some more. Yeah. Is that okay? I'm just, can I hear you? For some reason.
Oh, there we go. You can hear me now. Okay. Yeah. So I would love for you to talk about the spiritual sort of side of dentistry, because you have an interesting perspective. You really see the mind-body connection. And, in addition to farming and being a purveyor of lettuce and awesome garlic and radicchio and all these wonderful foods, you're sort of helping to educate us one by one. And so I'm so happy to have you here speaking with us about the connection between stress and dental health. So could you kind of, give us some 101 on that connection?
Well, when people come in, people show up at a dentist, they broke a tooth. That was the simplest thing they did. Is they came in, they broke a tooth. And I looked at them, and initially when I was a young dentist, I just fill the tooth. I restore it, I don't ask questions. But we were always taught in the dental school and medical school is to do some interviews. It's the idea that if you don't know your patients and what they're going through, sometimes that might have an impact on the disease they're suffering from. So for example, I'll give you an example. This is a true story. It took me about 1.5 years to learn this whole story. Some young lady, a very lovely young lady, a teacher, came in with a molar that chipped a little piece of filling. So I put a filling back in, She came back again, she broke it, and it's a little bit bigger now. So I tried again, and that failed. So we go to a crown, right? And by now, she also had some issue with the crown. She cracked some of it, and she needed a root canal. So the root canal went in, and the crown began to fail, And so at the end, it was so painful, she had to have it extracted, and she had an implant in there. Nothing was solved. Something is definitely wrong. So I basically closed the door. It's a small office. You close the door, you can talk. Tell me what's going on in your life. She was going through a marital problem. Now, if I had known that she had that much stress, I would have stopped her at first before she broke any more and said, you should seek some other counseling, some help. Dental problem is only a symptom, is not the disease itself. Had I done that and put her on some kind of muscle relaxant, work with her with a special mouth guard that I built later on, I did that for her. And it could have prevented her like 1 year long of suffering with that much money being spent on a problem that could have solved with something very simple. So from then on, I always ask patients when they come in, I check their jaws and I feel them out and I see if they're stressed. If they are stressed, the muscle is going to tell me, because muscles have memory. They're stressed out, they're going to clench and grind. I press certain places, muscles of the jaw and of the face, of the neck. They have some sore spots. That usually is an indication somebody's really working those muscles hard. They're clenching, grinding, or working them hard. And as a result, some side of there is going to crack. And you can see the bridges literally move out of their mouth. They crack and move out of their mouth. So it became an indication maybe they're going through some trouble, financial, or they're not happy, or they're upset with what's going on television, like this COVID thing. people literally have a tooth that cracked, they come in with it. Now, people don't break it like that. This is tremendous amount of stress, you know? So it's just something that the body has a memory, it tells you. So if you find where those spots are, you can work with them. And then you wanted to point it out saying, you know, look, I'm not a priest. I'm not a psychologist, you know? I'm more like an investigator. I'm just trying to find out what happened. And then I would say, well, maybe the simplest thing I could do is I could make your mouth guard. We can talk about these problems, but you need to pay attention to them. It could be somebody who's dying, could be somebody else's parents is dying and they're treating an elderly, you know, elderly patient or whatever that the situation is. Yeah. But it's just a symptom. It's a window into somebody's soul. And so from then on, I always spend an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes just to see how they are. And that way we know that we're not just treating the symptoms. We're taking care of the whole person. Maybe they're not eating right. They're not happy where they are, you know? And of course, there's a lot of things going on in society. Most of us are influenced and affected by what goes on around us, you know? And so that's just a window into their soul. So that's how I do it.
Yes. So you often put me at ease, and I think that there's something kind of magical about regular visits with practitioners of different modalities who really check in with you and who sort of, because it's almost like a ritual where, you know, I come to you and then I sort of reboot, like I get revitalized, like, okay, I'm going to de-stress, I'm going to not worry, and I'm going to
Send you home with the radicchio.
you're gonna send me home with the radicchio and maybe garlic, and but most important, I'm gonna carry with me the memory of you're telling me not to worry and just relax. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be more diligent about flossing. I'm gonna do this and that and the other. And you know, I think that the teeth health is really extremely important because it's like these bacterial colonies, we have to keep them in check. And I really think that mouth health affects all health. And mouth health is also indicative of digestive health and your food. So can you talk about the connection between these things?
Well, so let's put it this way. If somebody is not feeling well, for example, if they're under a great amount of stress, so what they're going to do, they're going to have the comfy food. So they'll drink a lot of sweets, for example. And what are they going to get? They're going to get a lot of cavities. So you have some young lady came in with tons of cavity all over the place. The first thing is not to say, oh my God, what have you done? No, the first thing is says, what's going on in your life? You know, are you comfortable? You check out their muscles, you do the generalized exam. And yes, they're going to have some places that are really tender, you know? So maybe this is a young lady who's going through high school, they're graduating, there's a lot of uncertainties. So they're going to rely on comfort food. They like something sweet. And when we're stressed out, we're going to revert back to what our childhood comforts, sweet milk. So sweet becomes our break. But that exactly is just a small window into their soul. So they're not going to eat properly, you know? I have patients that drink half a gallon of soda. Why would they drink half a gallon of soda every single day? Well, maybe they're not happy where they're at. Maybe their work situation, maybe there's something going on. Maybe it's an addiction. This happened to be an addiction, somebody who's addicted to it. Well, we need to help them out. He came in with a social worker, obviously needs some type of extra care, you know? And so eating has something to do with it. We tend to gravitate to something that comforts us, but not necessarily something that's good for us. You know, radicchio is very bitter, for example. I know that, but it's good for the soul, you know? And so eating, chewing, functioning, it's something that looks so simple, but it connects to how we act, who we are, you know? And so I think that also has tremendous stress on our digestive system because they eat only one type of food that's comforting them, right? So they're going to gain tremendous amount of weight, for example, right? These are comfort foods. But our goal isn't just to blame them for that. We need to assure them that they're doing fine. There are other solutions. May not be as obvious, but we will point it out maybe in a situation whether they don't like their work, they're distressed out about this. We usually talk about it in a small setting. It's more psychological. We make them aware of what's going on. And then we point out if they need spiritual counseling, if they need direction. I ask them whether they have any spirituality, any goodness, and believe in any goodness, you know. I talked to that with you, any goodness, because I'm not a minister. I'm not here to push anything on anybody. But we need to make that connection with the soul, because the body has that, it bubbles up, you know, in different ways. And we could suppress it, but we ended up just suffer from those things because we ignore it, you know. And I happen to be like a small Sherlock Holmes or something. I'm just investigating, somebody broke something. Ooh, something is going on. So you just kind of one leads to another, and then at the end you figure out, it was the marital issue. It was on the teeth problem. Maybe their parents are dying. Maybe the parents staying with their house, you know, with them, and they're taking care of, they have no place to go, you know, to de-stress. I've seen a lot of patients like that. They're good people. They're taking care of people, and they unwillingly carry on a lot. And you know, Pandora, we are healthcare providers. We learn to disconnect, sort of dissociate from those people whom we are helping, so we can help them, right? So when we see these things, we cannot take that home with us. We dissociate, so we can stay detached, so we can see what's going on. More of a Buddhist approach, I guess, you know. And then says, yes, it is suffering, but it isn't real, you know. So you can see what it is, then help others, because all that suffering is there, but it isn't real. That's what Buddhism says. It's not real. It's not permanent. You know, something that can be evolved, you know, and there's an answer. So that's how I see it. I'm not so sure I answered your question, but
No, you did. And actually, speaking of things evolving,
yeah.
I think more and more science is proving that you can build bones back. Like there was this idea that we couldn't, you know, that things just degrade over time. But, you know, we can see that we can actually do something to help the enamel in terms of our diet, right? Like alkalizing foods, lots of fibers, less breads, less sugars, because breads and flours all turn into gunk and stick to our teeth, you know, build tartar. And I know for myself and my son, I've seen huge improvements in our teeth when we stay away from sugary drinks, and especially eating salads, eating tons of raw vegetables that have lots of fiber, and really paying attention to the acid level, you know, in our bodies, and trying to really stay green and alkalizing. Um, and you know, of course, the attitude's so important. You raise chickens and you grow vegetables, and you got involved with the local farmers market. I don't know how many years ago, over 10 years ago. Can you talk about why you farm, and you know, how you got started?
It's probably a healing journey, I guess. When I start out, I wasn't thinking of raising lots of chickens, have eggs to sell at the farmer's market, or I would grow, I don't know, 40, 50 types of garlic at one time, or 40 types of tomatoes. I wasn't that crazy. I was a catalog farmer. I see something I like, I would grow, but it was for my own good, you know? But in 2008, I had a little bit of a spiritual journey. You see, I was raised as a fundamentalist, like a Christian fundamentalist. Those are the ones that always want you to be saved, so God could take you to heaven, that sort of deal, you know. And that caused a lot of harm, because the fundamentalists, they don't deal with the fundamentals of life. It's how to live. They live in the next world. So they scare you, you know, your sin is going to weigh you down, you're going to burn in hell. But nobody's burning in hell here right now. You know, where's our, but anyway, I spent a lot of time and money into something like that. So that came to realize that, oh my God, I spent it and I wasted that much time in my life. All my life was in it. And then I have 5 kids. What am I going to do? So I figured I'm going to join the farmer's market, do something else different. So this is really selfish. And then so I didn't even know where the farmer's market was. I didn't know what a farmer was. And we start growing things. And as you grow things, you know, you're in touch with the earth, right? And people call it Mother Earth, people call it Gaia, what they want. There's something magical about touching the soil. That you're solid, you're touching the earth, you're growing things from it, and we slow by slow, it's going to piece our lives back together. I mean, kids became a team. We have 5 kids working, helping us out with the picking this, doing that, and they were really good until they hit the teen years. But I mean, I use American methods of paying them really well, whatever that comes in, a lot of incentive, and they were happy they were making like $10 a Saturday or $15 a Saturday. It's a lot of money for a kid. And then we put the money away, and but the key is we got more out of it than what we sold. We had a family going, we had a team going. We knew what the vegetables are when they're grown properly. We know what the taste is of a good vegetable, you know, the one that's balanced with a little sunlight, warm in the afternoon, and the sugar content is just right. That's a good tomato. We know what it is. We know what greens are when they're first grown. We know what it smells like. When you cut them, there's a little milk that looks milky, from the salads. We know what they are. We don't rely on, I mean, we appreciate the fact that supermarket do supply us with tons of food, and there are people who work and literally spend their lives picking these things for nothing so we can have food on the table. I'm appreciative of that. I'm not saying they're wrong, but growing it ourselves really make us to the next level, and it's very healing as a journey. So I've been at the farmers market for about 13 years. Kids signed up about 4 or 5 years ago because they turned teens and they stopped, and then one after another stopped coming. And I think about quitting, but I have garlic. I still grow garlic. And the thing about garlic is you grow them the year before, so you can't quit this year. And then you got more to go next year. Then you form friends. These are farmers we know, that we've known for years. So it became a community for me. I mean, I haven't gone to church in about 7, 8 years consistently. It became my church. You go in there, you say hi, and you see everybody coming together. We set up the tent, we chat, we talk about politics, we bang it out. It was a lot of fun, yeah. And I thought it was a good community.
Can you talk about your method of container gardening? Because you do a lot of that. And I'm guessing that that's because of how many bunnies and squirrels and things are out, or that the fact that our soil in Eastham, in Orleans, where you are, and a lot of us on the Outer Cape have soil that's difficult to amend, without putting a lot of compost and seaweed and so on. So can you talk about your method?
Well, first of all, I have to give credit to my wife. And my wife reads more than I do. I'm a fundamentalist. I don't read the Bible. I'm in King James Version. What else do I know? But she reads extensively. And she told me that early on we used containers with just a little bit of soil, 5 gallon. We can grow quite a bit of mesclun, beautiful mesclun. There's a year we have nothing but mesclun, like 10, 15 buckets of it. And then this, of course, I realized that over the years, we mend the soil. It's always sandy, certain parts of it. I mean, I'm lucky than most people. I have actually 10, 12 inches of topsoil, okay? But they get depleted. And so we are using compost, we're using loam, we're using building our own. But I found the best way to do is a 3 to 5 gallon bucket, because you have the best control. You put maybe 3 to 5 inches of leaves in the fall, save those. Then you put soil, then you mix in with chicken manure, mixing with compost, and mixing with loam. And as they decompose, they'll come together, and it's really a good way to grow beautiful lettuce. I mean, for tomatoes, you need bigger buckets, maybe about 10, 15 gallons, It doesn't do well with root vegetable. We tried everything. It doesn't do well with beets or carrots. You need bigger things than that. Or even, various type of root vegetables. But we have very good luck with it. I mean, I grow one per pot, about 4 or 5 gallons. And as weather gets warmer, bigger the pot, the better they retain the water content. And it's very, very good with saving water and so on and so forth. You're not wasting water spraying the entire yard. No. Just little buckets, and buckets can be moved. So when the bunnies multiply, we didn't kill the bunnies. I mean, you just raise them. You use buckets and 2x4s. So now the bunnies got a little place underneath they can eat. We didn't bother them, So we coexist. I mean, sure, if you put them on the ground, they'll eat them all, which they do. But you just raise them a little bit, it's out of their reach. But I left the weeds for them. They're fine. So we coexist.
So I this year I became ambitious, and I have some raised beds. I have a lot of stuff in the ground, and I'm discovering a new relationship with bunnies. I seem to be their, purveyor of food this year. They slowly discovered that clover just isn't as awesome as peas,
Yes,
beans, uh,
they,
morning morning glory flowers, or morning glories. They just want to. They're just kind of just they discovered echinacea this morning,
oh
which is good
Lord.
for the immune system. So I'm sure that they're some benefit medicinally. But I would love for you to just do you have I mean do you use like fox urine, or do you use any deterrent for
Oh,
chipmunks or
what I
bunnies?
did was I have friends who gave me 5 gallon buckets. Imagine this with me: 2 5 gallon buckets, 2x4, two by fours. You can put 10 plants on top, and it's basically out of their reach. So you look outside my clinic. That's what happened last year. There were so many bunnies, and they're going after my strawberries and things. So I mean, they're eating what they like, and we have nests of little bunnies. I even discovered them in the yard. So it's okay. They live here too. So if you raise your potted your plants and raise them out of their reach, but you don't disturb the weeds and stuff, they'll usually go after those. Yeah. So I would try that.
So, do you have any final advice for folks in terms of their dental health, or in terms of maybe a piece of advice about gardening, since you've been there?
Dental
you,
health, I would think that first of all, most of my colleagues are honorable, good people. What we're trying to do is to keep people in good health. So that means they clean, they stress on preventive. They come in and clean and check. And I know a lot of people don't like X-rays, and I know I'm a lot easier on it than some people do, but they do it for a reason. But I would say that visit dentists, and something is going on. Don't just jump in and do a crown. Find out why you have that problem. And it could be an indicator that there's something in your life that isn't going well, that you're not happy about. That could be that. But not, of course, accidents happen. Of course, it's nothing just because you have a broken tooth doesn't mean you have a really horrible life or something. That's all I meant. And the other one is gardening is really a good way to be in touch with yourself, in yourself, and the earth. You need to touch the ground. It's a sacred act. And I'm sure in the past, people have various religious rituals to celebrate that. And we lost that in this country. We lost that in our culture. So our people are so detached from the ground. They don't even know where they came from. You know, we got to plant our feet solidly on the ground. You know, it's sacred to us, and we got to keep it sacred. So we don't pollute it, we don't abuse it, we don't take it for granted. Those are the major part of our journey as human beings. We are only here, but most of us live to be 80 and 90. Some of us a little shorter, some of us a little longer. But we have a duty, even to the bunnies that jump around the yards. We let them be. Don't destroy them. Have plant enough strawberries so the birds can have some, and you can have some too. You plant 6 strawberry plants, you're not going to get anything. But my advice is, yeah, you harvest strawberries just a little earlier. Don't let them turn fully red. Same as tomatoes this summer. When they're turning red, take those. Put them on the window. They will turn red in a couple of days. That's perfectly fine. If you wait till they're fully red and ready to go, there's going to be a bite on the back of it. The birds already been looking at it more diligently than you are. But share them. If they eat them, leave a couple, take what you need. I have a very messy yard to most people. I have proper weeds growing. And I believe rejuvenating the ground with whatever that was there before. You know, don't just plant the same old stuff. Let things rejuvenate. And of course, to the trained eye, this is a huge mess. But I think I get tremendous relief from it because maybe because I'm a Taoist or something, things happen naturally. And it's okay. If they don't have to come in squares. We don't grow watermelon in squares, like Japanese do, the square ones. Grow big or small. They're supposed to be round. So, but dentistry is it's a window into your soul. That's how I look at it. And don't forget, when people are uncomfortable with who they are, spending the money won't help you. Finding out what causing that trouble will help. Yeah. So.
Yes, and I found that I haven't been drinking coffee, and I know in the past when I don't drink coffee and I drink coffee substitutes with roasted chicory, roasted dandelion, roasted ho shou wu, and I make my own herbal products, and my teas are so they're good for blood building, muscle building, good for tendons, good to prevent arthritis. Not only good to purify the blood, but good as kidney tonics and liver, and much better for the heart. There are also herbs like cola nut from South America that I add to a root beer mix that I make. And that I'm finding to be enough. I have a little caffeine buzz, but it's so much more like green tea. Like you were talking to me about green tea, and I said, oh, I get headaches with green tea. So I figured out a way for me not to get a headache, to get a tiny little bit of caffeine, but not come down, because then throughout the day I'm drinking these other herbs, which don't give me the kind of anxiety that I have TMJ. So
Right.
I definitely can feel a difference in the level of tension that I hold in my body, and what a difference that makes, like at yoga, at a dance class, just sitting around. I feel better. My posture's better because I'm not tense and anxious. So these things, I think, especially because we've all had so much time to reflect, or a lot of us have had time to reflect because of COVID, on ourselves. It's such a good time to really, I think a lot of times people wait till the summer is over to take care of their bodies, and they're just kind of like in party mode, or like in tourist industry mode. And I think now, because there's not the same level of traffic and people, we do have time to take care of ourselves. So I'm happy to have you talking about this stuff, and I really am appreciative because I think the mind body teeth connection, the mind body soul teeth connection is very important.
Yes, there is a connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we're wearing masks a lot of the time now, but when we're not wearing masks, it feels so good to have a big smile and not be self-conscious. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And a day that we didn't have to do this anymore. I'm inside my clinic, that's how it's on. But we treat this as a way to, maybe it's a spiritual retreat. We don't have to, come out and get upset about it. But now we have time to spend to do things we like with our family, people, or gardening, or walk around, think about these deep thoughts. It's good to have deep thoughts. It's not a bad thing. But don't look at the television that much. It's not that good. We do things that are good and help others. That's the key.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ben Chung, for joining us today.
Well, I'm very happy to be here, and I hope that you and your listeners will find their own path, and that they will be uh, joyful and they'll live a good life. That's what this is all about on this journey that we have on Earth. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Blessings. Blessings.
Blessings.
Yeah, blessings.
Well, thank you, Ben. I'm going to edit this a little bit, but I'll be airing it Thursday. I'll be airing it. Yeah. So what day is today? Wednesday. Is it Wednesday already? Yes.
I think it's Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to get this to Maddie, the engineer. So we'll get it to him tonight. Definitely. The audio version will be airing tomorrow, and then I'll edit the video separate, and then that'll either be up tomorrow or probably Friday.
Did I touch on all the points that you were looking for, or?
I think so. I mean, yeah. The only thing I was going to ask you was what brought you to America, but I read that it was Harvard. I mean, we could talk about that. Do you want to say?
No, that's not important. Yeah, we're all here. For another time, but
Very cool.
I think my focus is more on trying to encourage people. When they have a little problem, don't just treat this general problem. There's a little window to their soul, and if we look at it that way, you can step back and say, oh my God, I forgot. So, I mean, like what I have trouble with this person or with this job, it's affecting me like that, and I'd like to get it across because, you know, throwing money at it, making beautiful teeth is not our goal. If it's making people healthier, it is. Yeah. So
Right. And also, it empowers a person to know that there's some control that they have over their bodies. If we just think, oh, everything's disconnected from what we're putting into it and how the activities that we do and how we feel about things and our attitude, if we don't see that there's a connection, we can't really control it, and then we're just like a victim of whatever happens to us. So it's very empowering.
yeah, and the idea is that it's a little touch of a Buddhism and Taoism. Taoism lets people, so you let the bunnies be, you let the weeds grow. It's okay. Buddhism is just people are suffering. This is a great deal of suffering people are going through, but I must detach myself from that before I can help them. You see, and you are a healer, you know that. I mean, you look at people's lives. You told me, and you have to detach a little bit from it before you can be objective and say, something's going on. Yeah, and of course, the third party is always the clearest to the person who's suffering. They can't see it. We're all the same. We're all the same. But because of that connection, I hope that to help them to see that, yeah, maybe I would look into a little bit more, and maybe if I keep cracking this tooth on the right side, it's not because the dentist is not doing a good job, but because something is going on in my life. They'll take action, you know, and they'll take control of things. And yeah, drink a little tea is good too. I mean, something. So, but thank you. I hope this opportunity helps me to share a little bit and helps me to get to know you a little bit. So, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you too. I think I might keep in, if you don't mind, a little bit of that, what you just said, just to kind of tie everything up. And to that, I will add that I had a thing happen with a chipmunk where he put a hole right by our side door where we go in and out all the time, and his tunnel was like his door, but I didn't realize it was a door to his home. Like I didn't think of it like that. So I plugged it up because I'm like, this is really inconvenient. If it gets any bigger, I might trip. And then, or if I come out in high heels, I might fall. So and he moved it, and then I put another one, a bigger rock, and then he moved that, and then I put a bigger rock, and then he moved that, and then I knew it was silly and just totally ridiculous, but I plugged it up with dirt, not thinking this creature knows how to probably has a whole network of tunnels in and out of under our house and around it. uh, and so of course he put everything out. Like a few minutes after I did that, he unburied himself, and then I came out and he came right up on the steps, and he looked at me, and he looked out from my direction as if to say, look, you stepping out of your home, this is your home and that's mine. And then he went up to his and then looked at me again and kind of went on, I think he went on his hind legs, and then he went down into his hole, and then he came out of his hole with his cheeks full of food, and it was like he was just looking at me like, hey, this is your home, you eat here, you live here, I've seen you eat here, you live here, and this is your his step, and this is my step, and this is where I live, and this is where I eat. So I was like, oh, like this,
I got it.
communicating with me like this is his home. Like,
that's the reason why I have bunnies hop all over the place, and it's okay.
Yeah.
They ate my strawberry. That's okay. And the birds ate most of my strawberry this year. That's okay. We're supposed to feed them.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.